The Stanford School of Business lecturer Dave Dodson. Professor, let me go to you first. The Stanford view of what's happening right now in Hong Kong, because a lot of people were of the view, all right, well, they settled this with the extradition thing. Everything's going to calm down, and now it's reaccelerated. How do you play that? How do you deal with that?
I don't really know what's going to happen in the business community. They've got to obviously calm this down, and China's got a lot of fires they're working on right now, of which Hong Kong has flared up. I think they sort of thought that it got taken care of, and now it got worse. And I think that was primarily the release of all the videos that came out over the last week of the violence that's taking place.
You know, David, you think about China, and it became this economic juggernaut for a communist state. It was an anomaly, if you will, a sort of a successful dichotomy. But ultimately, we're told by historians you have to be one or the other. I think that's a bit simplistic. But if it reverts, that is, China to be the same country it was 30 years ago in Tiananmen Square when it said enough is enough. Now, I know that was long before it became the economic superpower it is. So it would be a lot more risky to take that strategy now. But what do you think?
Well, look, we're only a couple decades away from the 100-year anniversary of the People's Republic of China. And by the way, China thinks not in terms of quarterly earnings, but they think in terms of generations. And so as we come across the 100-year anniversary of the People's Republic of China, what we're seeing is this very clear evolution from having concerns about sort of the social part of China to the economic part of China. And so what we've got is, in some ways, especially going into these trade negotiations, Neil, they've kind of got the best of both things, which is they've got the benefit of a command economy while they're negotiating with their big trading partner. At the same time, they are largely a free market system.
Professor, you deal with a lot of young kids. You speak to them, you teach them. And we're told when we looked at this 10-year point in this recovery, as well as the market after a very strong first half, that the least participation was among young people, that either they're cynical or jaded, or the same with housing and a lot of these other institutions that were the core of their, but let's say that even their parents' point of view and strategies, but not for them. Now, I don't know if that applied to the students you work with, but why is that?
Well, you know, there's an interesting statistic, Neil, which is that back one generation ago, 90% of Americans, by the time they reached age 30, made more than their parents. Today, it's dropped all the way to 50%. So there's actually some pretty good basis for the cynicism. Secondly, what they're discovering is they're seeing that their vote doesn't matter. They vote for people, and then they go to Washington, D.C., and we've got this clear party line vote where we have the Democratic vote and the Republican vote, and they just do as they're told. So young people are looking and they're saying, I don't have the economic future that I thought. My vote doesn't really count. And oh, by the way, debt is going through the roof, and I've got the massive student debt. So they actually have a pretty good reason to be cynical. And then they look at the breakup, makeup presidency. You know, every week he's broken up with someone, and then he gets back together again with another foreign leader. And it's kind of like mind-boggling, and I think there's a certain numbness that's being developed.
That's very interesting. All right, we'll watch closely. Hopefully they're not so jaded, so cynical that they give up on everything.
Well, I'm going to try to work on that a little bit, okay?
All right. Well, if anyone can, it's you, Professor.